The base is dropped on a Thursday morning here in Atlanta, Georgia. Soccer down here for April 4th. Thursday Thoughts edition means we're taking your thoughts on Twitter throughout the show at Soccer Down Here. Jason Longshore, John Nelson with you this morning. And John, we were watching South Georgia Tormenta last night host FC Tucson, not on hand, not in Statesboro like you were for the first match, but we were watching on ESPN Plus, and first half was kind of slow, kind of disjointed, and then everything came to life pretty early in the second half.
Yeah, and it was the visitors that got on the board first. You know, you mentioned the first half. Possession was 50-50. Game was stretched at times, and there were opportunities for both teams in the first 45, but nothing came to the fore. Then FC Tucson got on the board, I want to say, in the 54th minute or so.
55th minute, Devin Vega with a ridiculous free kick. This is one that I wish we had a behind-the-goal angle and could have seen the bend on it, because it looked like the goalkeeper was just completely frozen thinking that shot's going wide.
Yeah, and it was basically, it looked like a slider that kind of dropped off the table and completely and totally just was, I mean, that is your, I guess, be your first goal of the week candidate for match week 2. And then the rest of it was all Tormenta.
Yeah, immediately after. So Vega gets the goal in the 55th, and then Tormenta goes a little nuts at Irk Russell Park. Here's the highlights from last night.
Antley drives inside. Working against Summersaw. Late challenge. He'll look for the chance. Back across. Sent in. Coutinho responds. Nothing the entire match. We have 2 goals in just a matter of minutes. And the Tormenta fans reason to celebrate. And Antley, here he comes. Through ball up ahead. Onside is Morel. Cuts back across from Ejimadu. Into the back of the net. Back-to-back goals, and Morel has his second of the season. They caught them sleeping, and Connor Antley, he might have 2 assists in about 4 minutes. Sliding challenge as Antley knocked it away. Through ball up ahead. Here's Micheletto. Sends over. Beautiful curler. Marco Micheletto.
The one name you heard a lot on those highlights and did not score a goal himself is Connor Antley. 3 assists. Mm-hmm. He assisted on every one. The through ball to send Morel in for the go-ahead goal was ridiculous. I thought Micheletto's goal to finish it off, he's a player to watch in USL League One. If you don't know Marco Micheletto yet. Connor Antley as well, Alex Morel as well. This is a really good squad that Tormenta has built for year 1 in League One. And it was something that came up on the broadcast last night. You see different types of clubs in USL League One right now. You see clubs that are, direct affiliates to MLS clubs like North Texas, like Orlando City B, like Toronto FC2. They're going to be very young, lots of academy guys, but also very young homegrowns brought in, and the occasional player brought down to get some minutes. You see the independent teams that have started from scratch, like a Chattanooga, like a Madison, that are probably going to skew a little older in terms of the roster, because they're not really, their goal is to put the best team on the field possible, and they're starting from no base. You have a Richmond Kickers who moved down and brought a good number of players down from USL Championship with them. But then you have clubs like Tormenta and Tucson. Tucson's an affiliate of Phoenix Rising, so they're a little bit in between the 2 models. But Tormenta is coming up from USL League 2. And they brought a lot of players up with them, which people looked at a little funny when this started with Tormenta, and they started signing a lot of players who had been with them in League 2. USL League 2 is college players. It's guys who still have college eligibility typically and are playing in the summer in between their college seasons. Well, Tormenta took an idea last year, and we talked to Darren Van Tassel about it. We talked to John Migliarese about it. They took that idea of bringing guys in for last summer's season, but also looking ahead at guys that could earn a pro deal. And many have. And it gives them, I think, a leg up early in the season because even though those players went back and played in college last fall, they have an understanding and a togetherness that is really hard to build from scratch.
No, I agree with you there. There are, in teams with different approaches, if you're assembling something, there's always going to be, whether you're assembling from absolute scratch like a Chattanooga and you bring in veterans, or you have an academy side where you're assembling and your academy guys, they shuttle in and out, and there are different approaches every year with who you have and who cycles through. But then you have Tormenta, who had guys last year who were familiar with each other, and yes, you went away and you went your separate ways, but then you come back and you have that familiarity. And I think that especially early on in the season, while these teams who have assembled from absolute zero are still trying to figure out combinations, permutations, 11s, 18s, and who can do what, you have a Tormenta side that has that familiarity. They already have those relationships that they've figured out. And we saw it in the game against Greenville, and we saw it especially last night in the game against FC Tucson, where you have the relationships, you have that familiarity, and when you can flip a switch and score 2 goals in basically 2 minutes, or 2 goals in 3 minutes, however you want to gauge it, and then 3 in 15, and you can put the hammer down like that, you see that Tormenta may have a leg up on competition. There is no doubt that Greenville will be very good. There is, you look at the experience of Chattanooga, you look at North Texas, and we saw what Ricardo Pepe can do, and you're going to have those kinds of talents. But I think that having groups that have that togetherness already built in, especially in something that is starting up from scratch, I think that, to your point, I think that Tormenta may have a leg up early on here in at least the first quarter of the season while everybody's trying to figure it out.
Yeah, the thing that I keep coming back to is we always worry every time there's expansion in Major League Soccer or expansion in USL Championship and now USL League One. The question always comes up like, oh, they're expanding too fast. There's not enough talent. There's not enough players to go around. It's such a bogus argument. It just is, because, one, there are a number of players going around in the United States that you don't know about. There are players like these guys who have signed to Tormenta, who are professional players, that you didn't know anything about. There are players who are playing in local leagues that could be professional if given the right opportunity. Saw that happen firsthand here in Atlanta when Eric Winalda came in as the technical director. He went and found a number of guys that you had never heard of. Many of those guys are still playing professionally today. He gave them that chance, and they have continued on in their professional careers. Did all of them break through as Major League Soccer stars? No. Quadrupoku did go on to play in Russia and play in MLS with NYC before that, and make a good bit of money being a professional soccer player. And he was at an NPSL side, Georgia Revolution, prior to that, but Winalda gave him the opportunity in the North American Soccer League, and he has run with it. Other guys have as well. Jaime Chavez still playing in the USL today. Pablo Cruz back in Las Vegas with Winalda now. There's guys out there. Sometimes you just have to look. And when you have more clubs like this, you're going to have more opportunities. And I love seeing these brand new guys come in. And they don't always have to be from the U.S. either, although that's going to be your overwhelming base. You're going to be able to bring in players from overseas. You have so many guys for a USL League One, for a USL Championship team. Okay, you might not be able to go to Argentina and spend money on transfer fees. Yeah, absolutely, that's fine. But you have so many international players coming over to play in college, and they want to stay in the States. This is an avenue for that, and you're getting some good players to add to your base. There's also the opportunities. Look at El Paso. El Paso Locomotive signed Jerome Kiesewetter, who has a couple caps with the national team, had a bunch of injuries, grew up in Germany, but had roots to Texas. He's at a second division Bundesliga club. It wasn't working out. Okay. Come back to the USL Championship and play in a market that is packing their stadium out and has a lot of excitement right now. You're seeing I think, a bit of a sea change. And what it's showing is that, one, the level of talent in this country, whether born here or wants to be here, is higher than people sometimes give it credit for. And two, you're nowhere near full in terms of the number of clubs that can serve that talent. These players for Tormenta, the players from Tucson, the players we saw at Greenville, you're seeing a lot of new faces as professional soccer players for the first time, and it's really exciting to see. Go back and watch Tormenta and the way they played. One, they played a 3-4-3, which I know some people will chuckle about. It looked pretty good, and you had a group that understood the way they wanted to play. They've had a lot of time to train in it. They've had a long preseason, and they've been pretty consistent with their roster, and it shows. And you have players who are playing to their strengths. I mean, a player like Connor Antley was playing as a center back, but he had 3 assists. I mean, there you go. He's stepping up high and getting involved. You had forwards who were cutting inside. It was a lot of fun to watch. They played it a little bit differently than Atlanta United. They didn't dominate possession. They had 49% of the possession. Tucson had 51%. But where you look into the stats at Tormenta and some of the things that jump out to you, they were completing passes 2/3 of the time in Tucson's half. That was a pretty significant difference from what Tucson was giving you. Their crossing was better. They were a little more willing to hit the long ball. Created more shots on target, better shooting accuracy, all of the basics there. They were the better team. And now Tucson did play in Orlando over the weekend, and they came to Statesboro to play. Long road trip for Tucson. We'll see what happens when these two teams meet again. But so far, from what I've seen with USL League One, it has completely filled a need that American soccer has had for players who fall through the cracks, aren't quite ready for that USL championship situation, or are just in parts of the country that are underserved.
And are looking for that opportunity to get back to the championship. Last night for Tucson, we saw a familiar face. Andrew Wheeler-Romanu is a part of FC Tucson this year. And we saw him in preseason with Chattanooga Red Wolves. But just to give you an idea about, and this is just place of birth. This is not soccer history. This is what Tormenta put out there last night. In goal, Pablo Jara from Chile. Connor Antley's from Noonan. Eckenrode from Virginia. Josh Phelps is from Australia. Nick Wells is from Atlanta. Ricardo Gomez is from Gainesville. Neil Vinyals is from Spain. Charlie Dennis, who is another guy that I really like in his first 2 matches, out of Brighton, England. Marco Micheletto's from Rome, Italy, but has spent some time here in the States. Jad Arslan's from Roswell. So you have that mix of guys. Mikey Rose from Ireland. So the mix is there from place of birth, and then once again drifting over here to either chase an opportunity or to come here for college or what have you. But the mixes are there, and I think that you're seeing so far with USL League One that void and that gap that is there is being filled in these places. And a bit of a forward tease, we're going to have a 1v1 catching up with Lansing Ignite as well, and we'll release that over the weekend.
Yeah, excited to see the growth, excited to see this progression. We'll have our USL League 1 in 10 podcast later this afternoon, get you caught up on Week 1 and the first game of Week 2 of the regular season. We're going to take a break right here. We've got Felipe Cardenas from The Athletic joining us at 9:30. We're going to get into some U.S. women's national team as well. Number 1 ranked team in the world, United States, hosts number 6, Australia, tonight in Denver. I think Australia, for me, is right outside of that group that I would consider favorites this summer at the World Cup. So this is a pretty big test for the U.S. We'll get into that as we go as well. Hang out with us. We'll be right back.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yep, he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service, Ad Council, and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency, or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Welcome back. April 4th edition of Soccer Down here. Jason and John with you this morning. Let's get into some CONCACAF Champions League. Thanks to the Colonel for the shout-out and the reminder. Sporting Kansas City tonight is on the road in Mexico at Monterrey. Last night, first leg of the semifinals between Tigres and Santos Laguna, Tigres ran out to a 3-0 lead, 3 goals in 37 minutes, and they made that hold up. Tigres and Monterrey, I would say, are your favorites here, and I think everybody's pretty happy with a Clásico Regio final in the Conca Champions. What do you think Kansas City has to do in the first leg tonight in Mexico to have a shot in leg 2 in Kansas City?
For, I guess, a double negative, not lose by more than 1 goal. I think if you get out of there with a draw, fantastic. You lose by 1, you're good. You get an away goal, even better. So 2-1 with an away goal, take it and run. 3-1 or 2-0, you're kind of sitting there going, But I think that just keep it within earshot for the return leg at Children's Mercy. Don't let the game spiral out of control to where you have this incredible mountain that you have to climb in the reverse fixture. Just hang tight and be close. And like I said, if you lose by 1, fantastic. Get out of Dodge and run like hell and go back home.
It's tough to go into a match with that kind of mentality, but yeah, that's kind of where you're at. The Blue Testament, the SB Nation site that covers Sporting Kansas City, had a Q&A with the Mexican site that covers all of Mexico, including the national team and the league. And the point was made, and we talked about it with Atlanta and Monterrey, that Monterrey's value, their transfer value, was about $30 million more than Atlanta's, and Atlanta's dwarfs the rest of Major League Soccer. Well, Monterrey's transfer value is about 4 times that of Sporting Kansas City. Now, I do think that the valuations of Major League Soccer players are not high enough. I do think they're better players than... I don't think Monterrey is 4 times better than Sporting Kansas City. Let's put it that way. But they have a roster that has a little more pedigree than what Kansas City brings. What do you think Kansas City does well and can give Monterrey some problems tonight?
Defend. I mean, if you all I have to do is start and look between the sticks and look at a guy like Tim Melia. And last time I checked, if the other team doesn't score, then you got at least one of 2 things that are going to happen. You're going to come out of there with 1 point, or if you score and the other guy doesn't, you're going to come out of there with 3 in a normal sense. But I mean, with a keeper like Tim Melia, who can keep you in matches, who has been known to stand on his head a great deal, I think that to me is massive, especially in international competitions. When you have guys like Graham Zusi and Beasler at the back, I think that helps. I think that when you have up-and-coming kids, and to me, he is a kid because while I'm far older, I think I'm 3 times older than Gianluca Busio. When you have that kind of up-and-coming talent that can help you in times where you're going to need depth, when you have a Felipe who can do things, when you have a Johnny Russell who can do things offensively. But I think for me, everything starts at the back, because if the other guys don't score and you hold them to a 0, you're in a match more times often than not.
You have to shut down Rogelio Funes Mori. I mean, That's what it comes down to. The Rayados found a way to get a few other goals without Funes Mori really doing much to hurt Atlanta, but in general, they go as far as he takes them. And Kansas City has to have someone put up a Miles Robinson type of performance against Funes Mori. I don't know who that is. I don't know if that's really Beasler or Fontas' game as the 2 center backs. I do think one advantage that Kansas City has here is Monterrey is struggling at the moment. Their backs are against the wall. They haven't won in 4. There's pressure. There was pressure when Atlanta faced Monterrey on Alonso, the manager, because this club, it's not good enough to just be really good. They spent so much money that was to win trophies. And even just winning 1 trophy might not be enough for Alonso. That's the type of pressure you're dealing with. And you're in 3rd place right now. That's going to mean a kind of tricky matchup in the first round of the playoffs, the Liguilla. You need to win CONCACAF Champions League. And you've got to start that process tonight with a comfortable performance and comfortable win over Sporting Kansas City, who, by the way, is coming in with a lot of confidence. Yes. They kind of thrashed Montreal on the weekend. The thing that I think Kansas City can do that could hurt Monterrey, and we saw Atlanta do it a few times and not take full advantage, and this was in the match in Monterrey, the passes out of the back that can split the lines. Miles Robinson had a couple, one to Joseph and one to Darlington Nagbe, that should have created a little bit more, and they didn't. That's one thing that Beasler and Fontas are very good at. You have 2 center backs who are comfortable making those types of balls, those types of passes. And you have a group up top that is pretty fluid, good movement, can make things happen and can find those pockets of space. Kansas City's going to be on their heels a little bit more than they're used to in this. They're not going to dominate possession in quite the same way that they typically have in Major League Soccer. So they're going to have to find those opportunities when they present themselves. I think it's something they can do to hurt Monterrey. I do. You worry about Kansas City just in terms of where the goals are going to come from because they haven't had that true number 9 outside of Dom Dwyer. Christian Nemeth is putting his hat in the ring to say, hey, I'm that guy. Mm-hmm. It took me a minute to get back into form, but I'm that guy. Johnny Russell, we know the danger that he can bring from a wide position, and I think he can create some havoc for Kansas City tonight. I don't think they have to go into this with a defeatist mindset that, there's no way we're going to win here. We just need to keep it, as basic as we can. It's tough to balance being realistic and being defeatist, though, in these situations. And I think that's hurt Major League Soccer teams in the past in these types of games. Yes, Monterrey on paper has more talent than you. Absolutely. It's true. They've spent the money. They've spent more money than anybody else in Mexico, let alone anybody in Major League Soccer. They should have a better roster than what Kansas City has. That doesn't mean you can't play with them. And I think Kansas City can do some things that can cause Monterrey some problems. You're down to one MLS team in the Final Four. It's Tigres at Santos on the other side. It's Monterrey here and Sporting Kansas City. I mean, we've talked about it all spring. How important is it for Kansas City to get out of the semifinals and get to the CONCACAF final?
It's for the continued, and I'm going to put this in quotes, for the continued improved self-thought-of stature of MLS from the world community. I think that for MLS's continued growth when it comes to the world conversation, I think that it is pretty important. And it's going to be a tall order to get there. for information purposes only. Tonight, full-time result, Monterey's at -223. The draw option is at +333. And if you are fortunate enough to get the draw option or Sporting, it is still at +162. That's the kind of tall road that those who wish to take your money in great proportions are looking at this one.
FMF State of Mind, the Mexican blog on SB Nation, 3-1 is their prediction for Monterey. Okay.
I mean, that to me would be somewhere in my ballpark. I was thinking something along the lines of 2-0. But I think considering what Toronto FC did last year, it has been proven that if you can put things together, if things fall your way, if you get some, if things can work their way to where you can have a path and you put your head down and do it, MLS sides can get to the last competition, the last part of the competition. I think to continue that kind of momentum in the world conversation, I think it's important for Sporting to do it. I see it as a bit of a tall order. I think they can pull it off, but I still think it's a tall order.
Couple things to keep in mind tonight for Monterrey. Their injury report, Miguel Layún, Nicolas Sanchez are both questionable with undisclosed injuries. Monterrey players who are suspended after the next caution to keep in mind. Sanchez is one, the strong center back who I think is Monterrey's maybe most important player. Jesus Gallardo, Maxi Meza, Rodolfo Pizarro are your others to keep an eye on. For Kansas City, your players on the yellow card tightrope, Felipe Gutierrez, Christian Nemeth, Seth Sinovic. So those are your guys to keep an eye on here. I am hopeful Kansas City can keep this tight. I think 2-1 is where you'd like to be if you can pull that off. If you can get a draw, it'd be a huge result for you. And that second match in Kansas City is going to be a fun one to watch. It's 10 o'clock Eastern tonight. It's on Univision Deportes. It's also streaming at yahoosports.com in English. We're going to take a break here. We're going to get Felipe Cardenas on the line. We're going to talk some Atlanta United. We'll talk a little CONCACAF and just the big picture of MLS and North America and South America and where everything fits. You know how Thursdays with Felipe can go. They can kind of lead into anything. We'll see where this one takes us right after this.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA is a national nonprofit working to transform youth and high school sports so that every child has a positive character-building youth sports experience. PCA provides live and online workshops to train double-goal coaches whose first goal is winning and whose second, more important goal is teaching life lessons through sports. PCA also has workshops for parents and high school student athletes. For more information, please visit positivecoach.org.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinsky of Apolinsky & Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. This cat makes me make art. He's always motivating me to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. He's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Keyboard Cat, YouTube star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Start yours today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here, April 4th edition. It's Thursday, so generally that means we get Felipe Cardenas from The Athletic to take a little bit of time for us, and he's with us. What's up, Felipe?
Hey, what's up, guys? Good morning.
Doing well.
Good
Doing
morning.
well. We're good. Things are happening. No game this weekend, so it's kind of a weird week as we get into this weird rhythm of trying to get into a normal part of the schedule. Last week we had a game that was a weird game. I don't know how much we can really deep dive into analyzing it because, you had about 40 minutes of soccer and about 50 minutes of assorted other sports that included water polo, swimming, beach soccer without the sand, UFC. It was ridiculous. But what did you take out of Saturday night's match in Columbus?
So, I think the two of you and everyone on this show since the Columbus game has pretty much covered everything. I think what I did, I rewatched it and I tweeted the next day what I saw, in the first, quoted within, in quotations, the first half, right? So, before the conditions got really just terrible, I saw a team in Atlanta United that, again, not the first time this season. I think, another example is one against Monterrey at home, but a team that was really focused on playing vertically, playing direct. And at the same time, you can still see them slowly understanding and grasping De Boer's system. And that doesn't matter really what formation they're in. I think we tend to focus too much on the formation. Even before they had played a game under De Boer, I wrote about the importance of Remedi and Nagbe, and that instead of focusing on if it's going to be a 3-4-3 or 4-3-3, you need to look at each individual player and look at their role within his system. So I think you're starting to see a little bit of progress in individual players. I think Eric Remedi still is grasping with a much a bigger role. He has a lot of ground to cover. He's essentially adopted that role of what Jeff Lorenritz did several times last year, where he's pulling into the midfield, into the back three.
It was interesting. I'm glad you mentioned
that. Might be new for him, yeah.
It is, and you could kind of see it. We had a really unique broadcast position for this one because every booth at Mopfre Stadium was full. You had 2 TV, you had 2 English language radio, and Columbus Spanish language radio. So we were in a tent next to the stand, next to the press box. Well, the tent was in a position where the wind was blowing the rain sideways into our face and on our equipment, and that's really not going to work. So they moved us under the stage. So we were right behind the goal, which is unique in terms of calling a game from. But for me, looking at the tactics and looking at the way things played out, I was in love with it because you could see exactly what you're talking about. Eric Remedi as that 6 in this position, or 5 from Argentina, he would call it. Yep. He early on was really getting disconnected from his 2 center backs. And Federico Higuain, savvy player, was just finding that space. As the first half went on, before the break, so in that first 30 minutes, there was adjustment. And he did figure it out. But early on, you're right, it was really rocky. And I think he is still coming to grips with what it means to be that holding midfielder in this type of, philosophy.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, he's a 6, he's a 5 in South America, but he has an offensive game to him as well. He wants to get forward. He can get forward. But he at the same time, he has some really crucial defensive responsibilities. Now he has even more build play responsibilities. And, that connection that you mentioned between the back 3 or the back 4 and then those 2 central midfielders has probably never been more important for Atlanta United. It's everything right now. And that's what, Frank de Boer has talked about, getting those players to understand each other. And when Miles Robinson is playing a ball into Remedi, he needs to understand, does Remedi have time to play? Can he play out of this? Is he being closed down? And right away, and that was the first thing I tweeted, is you could see that Remedi quickly was part of that back 3. It looked like it was very deliberate in how they wanted to build out of the back and kind of invite pressure from Columbus, which Columbus really, they bid on that. but it only took about 45 seconds to a minute before Miles Robinson played a ball into Remedi. He had too many guys around him. He lost it, and then quickly, they went back to more of a back four defensive shape. So, that looked practice though. So I think that to me is progress. I saw the team with the most quality that on Saturday did not win the game, and so, and the team with the most quality also. Or the team with more chances didn't finish the game either. They had their chances. Obviously Zach Steffen, had played out of his mind, which we've become accustomed to. But other players like Julian Gressel, who I agree with you, Jason, struggled a little bit in the first half. When he did kind of find his form, he got forward, he caused turnovers, but he just couldn't finish in the final third. So I think there were positives. There were other things that are still concerns, crucial moments, breakdowns, and just an overall lack of quality. And I mean that in, when you need to finish, that still isn't there. So, I think that was my takeaway from that first, I guess, 45, 46 minutes.
So then let's go to that second 45, 44 minutes. And I just want to get your overall arching view, just looking at it from the on high perspective. I want your 30,000 foot appraisal of not just necessarily Atlanta United playing all of those sports that they did that didn't resemble soccer, but concerns that you might have had about the game continuing, questions in your mind where you had that question mark thought bubble over your head, maybe in the 65th minute, no stoppage time called, and you hit 90, you blow the whistle, and Joe Dickerson says, okay, we're done. I guess, what kind of concerns did you take away about having the game continue, A, after 30, and then B, when you were in basically Lake Ohio for the second half?
Yeah, I mean, just watching it, first, I was at a party Saturday night, so I was watching it on my phone, and
there you go.
It was awful. You could just tell that, I couldn't believe that they were still playing. The next morning, Sunday morning, I watched the game again, and yeah, I don't know the MLS rules and how much power a referee has. Maybe you guys could fill me in, but it felt like the game should not have continued. And now I can understand that there are two sides to every story. Columbus is winning. They want to finish the game no matter how bad it is, because they have the advantage. 2 days ago, I sat with Joseph Martinez for an upcoming feature, and something that I was going to tweet after Saturday night that I didn't, he pretty much confirmed. I think the players for Atlanta United, they were more upset about playing that game than they were about losing it. And so that's what he told me. He's like, we wanted to get out of there. We didn't think the game should have continued. And in the end, he personally felt concerned about his own health. He said that, he asked to come out of that game, is what he told me. And he felt like he was concerned. He was freezing. He was wet. He started to feel poorly, is what he told me. He said, I felt bad and I asked for a sub, and then I spent 20 to 25 minutes under a hot shower. And so you start to get into the realm of not just injuries, but just health. And the players aren't focused at that point. They're thinking about how do I get off this field? How do we get out of here? And you saw that when the final whistle blew, people just start sprinting off the field. So, it's a shame that a league at this level would allow that to happen, because you see a player like Franco Escobar, for instance. I don't know the severity of his injury, but my microscopic, or at least my blimp view of him starting in that game was, okay, well, careful, because he hasn't played in a full competitive MLS match. I know he played with the twos and was probably rusty. I know he's been training, and I think when that game against Columbus started, you saw a guy that was ready to go, but his body was probably sent into some sort of shock when you're playing a full 90, you're playing in an MLS match, you're running hard, and then you throw the conditions on top of that. It's a recipe for disaster. It really is. surprising that there weren't more injuries after that game. So it's a shame because you lose the quality of the product that MLS really is trying to push.
I'm glad Joseph mentioned it that way because it's something that hasn't really been talked about enough. It's one thing that the field was unplayable, and it was. You couldn't play anything resembling soccer on it in the second half. But the way the temperature changed on top of that and the wind was just a brutal combination. I mean, I don't think I can ever remember being outside for anything where the temperature and wind caused about 20 to 25 degrees difference in the temperature from the start of our pregame to when we finished the full-time report. It was brutal. I mean, it's just, and we were standing still doing it, or I was not standing still. I was like dancing around to try to stay warm. I mean, I watched Tito Villalba, and I mentioned it on the broadcast, multiple times when there was a dead ball out for a throw or out for a corner where he was not actively defending anybody. He was just running in a circle, just trying to stay warm. I mean, it was ridiculous. I don't know what the rules would have been. I mean, the referee's in complete control once the match starts, so it's his discretion. Now, of course, when you have that break, he's probably on the phone with league officials, with professional referees organization, and there's lots of conversation. I think what was difficult about this one is you had a referee in his 12th Major League Soccer match, a young referee who's on the way up, but not a referee with the type of pull like a Marufo, like an Ismail Elfath, who has been around for a long time and could say more. I don't think Dickerson was really in a position to fight to have that match get stopped. We talked about it on Stoppage Time yesterday. I think you probably, understanding travel situations and understanding that you don't want to reschedule a trip and deal with all the costs of that, and Columbus having to deal with the cost of more, I think you would have been far better off to look at the radar and start that match at 11:30 midnight to where you get it in that night and you can make the field as playable as you can, but play it all under one set of circumstances, and you're not going to have more rain the rest of the night. The rain stopped when we left. Mike Conte and I are getting in the car, and the rain stopped at about 11:15.
Yeah, for someone that grew up in the Midwest, and I played soccer both in high school when it was a spring sport, and then it was moved to a fall sport, and there was really no difference. It's cold at the beginning of spring in Indiana, and it's brutally cold when you're getting towards the end of the season in October, November, and it starts to mix with rain and snow. And there were games in high school where I so badly wanted to be a goalkeeper so I could wear gloves and pants and long sleeves. So that's another factor. Like here's the thing, two teams were out there playing. So, you can't just say, Columbus, weren't under the same effects of the weather. They were, and they took advantage of their moments, and they scored 2 goals, and then they held on. And I think, you've covered it quite a bit about what Will Trapp said. Well, of course, they had a lot of adrenaline in their bodies, knowing that if we were up 2 goals on the defending champions, and if we get out of here, this is a big 3 points. So a lot of mind games are going on too. Atlanta is in a different place. They're losing. They have players that don't want to be out there. They're players that are concerned about their health at that point. And they're honestly all probably just thinking, we just need to get back to Atlanta. And knowing that what they have ahead of them, I guarantee they're thinking about this, the next 12 days and this off weekend, and how do we just finish here in Columbus and move on to New England. So that was in my conversation with Joseph. It seems like that was the case for a lot of those players, that they're glad that game was over. They're a little upset that it was still that it was played, and obviously, yes, of course, they are upset, specifically Joseph, that it was another loss. I think there's starting to be a concern just about they need to win games, and so again they have this time to get ready, to get mentally focused on what's still ahead of them after just 4 MLS matches. So still plenty to play for, but I did say that after Saturday night. It doesn't matter if you've won 3 Champions Leagues in a row or if you've just won the MLS Cup after 2 years of existence. If you're at the precipice of finding it difficult to win or thinking that things aren't going to go your way when things don't start going your way often. So I think Atlanta United they are in desperate need of a good result coming up against New England.
Then characterizing the match against the Revs, is it must win, need to win, should win? How would you characterize what they're going to be working toward over the next week or so? How would you characterize that match?
It's a must win, but not a must win because, they're bottom of the table or they're fighting for the supporter shield, or I don't think it has anything to do with standings, points, statistics. I think this team just wants to win. They want the feeling of knowing what it's like to win a match, and to win a match in this case away from home. I think sometimes that helps when you don't have that pressure of being in front of your home fans, where you're kind of, for lack of a better term, you're slightly the underdog going into any road game, and so yeah, I think we can look at it from a standings perspective and say they better start winning because that's the whole objective of trying to win the Eastern Conference and trying to make the playoffs. I think Darren Eales recently said that if in July if they're still where they are today in July, that's where the alarm really starts to sound. The concern is heightened and you can start to panic. But right now, I think this team just wants to feel good. They want to look at each other and in the eye and celebrate a goal together and hug it out after a goal and take a flight home back to Atlanta with 3 points. I think that's what this is all about. They can win. They would sell their souls at this point of just like winning ugly. I think this is just about winning a game. So yes, it is a must win, but I think internally this team just wants to feel good about walking away from a stadium with 3 points, knowing that from there it can start. They can get that train moving and get the momentum going as well.
So Atlanta United's off this weekend. What does the upcoming soccer weekend look like for Felipe Cardenas?
Well, when Atlanta United isn't playing, I tend to go back to my standard La Liga fixtures. I don't, I watch EPL. I watch the Premier League. I'll get up in the morning and if the game is on, it's I have it on while making breakfast and drinking coffee. I tend to really actually sit down and watch La Liga. So Barcelona and Atletico Madrid, I believe, are playing this Saturday. So that's a big clash, a big match. So that will be my focus. Just getting in front of the TV to watch that. My son is off too. No soccer for my 6-year-old. So more time for me to think about stories, to maybe find a moment to lock myself in the man cave and watch some obscure, maybe Talleres against Defensa and Justicia in Argentina, or watch Colombian League. I mean, there's always something to watch. So yeah, and I'll probably catch an MLS game as well.
Let me ask you this.
Go ahead, John.
Well, just when you were at practice the other day and you pulled something out of the old playbook and the old skill set, and you knocked it over to PT and got the thumbs up.
Yeah,
how cool was that for a dude who's had a history of playing, and then you have the reigning South American Player of the Year sit there and give you the thumbs up?
It was funny. It was great. Obviously, he appreciated my punting ability, but it was funny because that's happened before, where I'm leaving practice there. The players are still there shooting on goal, and one kind of flies over that mesh net, and I just kind of keep going. I'm like, okay, someone's going to pick that up, or none of my business. I go on, and this time, they hadn't practiced yet. They had moved practice to later in the afternoon, and so by the time I was leaving, PT had just kind of begun an individual session. So I'm leaving the training ground, and I see in this flowery type of bush, there's a ball. You can clearly tell it's the MLS, 2019 game ball. And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do it this time. So I get out of my car, put it in park, and look to see who's out there. I'm like, oh, okay, that's PT and an assistant coach. And I just, cracked it, punted it right over the mesh net, right back into them. And the first thank you was from the trainer, and he said thank you. And then when I kind of looked to the left to see, if PT was looking, he was already giving me the thumbs up. So I'm like, yes, whenever you need me, I'm here. I can join training session. I'll begin training now if you need to, if you need someone to send services in and for your volley practice, because that's what it looked like PT was doing.
You handled the pressure well. You didn't shank it. You didn't put it into the net. That's good.
Yeah, I thought that too. I'm like, I'm about to punt this. This could go wrong. This could go terribly wrong. It could bounce right back to me. Or you shank it and just like whatever. But it landed perfectly right in between coach and PT, and then I got the thumbs up.
Nicely done. Nicely done. All right, Felipe, thanks for the time. We appreciate it. We'll see if Atletico can draw La Liga a little bit closer and give us something to watch in the end of the season.
We'll see. Yeah, big game for them. And this is they don't typically. It's tough to get a result against Barcelona, and Atletico has been one of those teams that can do it, but sometimes Barcelona they play with that guy that's not from this planet, and they can just pull out a game. Yeah.
We'll see what planet Lionel is on this weekend. Felipe, we'll talk to you next week. Appreciate it.
All right, guys, take care.
Take our final break of hour number 1 right here. We'll be back after this.
Today's show is presented by Apelinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service Ad Council and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Welcome back. Wrapping up hour number 1 of SDH. We'll get into your Thursday thoughts in hour number 2. We'll get into the U.S. women's national team as well. They host Australia in a big pre-World Cup friendly tonight. A couple news nuggets before we go to break. NYCFC, Maxi Morales has missed a couple days of training. He's doubtful for the weekend. Hebert, the new forward, not sure if he's going to be able to start or not. According to our buddy Glenn Crooks, Dome Tarrant will decide on Friday if Hebert's going to start. He'll make the decision on Morales as well. Keaton Parks could get the start. Tarrant says maybe instead of Morales. So NYC needs to get pieces together, and it seems to be falling apart. Chicago. Now, we talked about the rumors, about a name change, about a venue change. We didn't really know how much stock to put in said rumors, although there were some pretty strong connections between the person spreading the rumors. ESPN Deportes broadcaster Rob Abramovitz echoes these earlier rumors for the tweet yesterday. Quote, I'm hearing from very good sources that name change is a go. They have to just announce it, parentheses, along with the stadium move. And it will be soon. If you want to save the name, you better rally quickly. If not, it might be too late. I know Rob. Rob's a very good source. He's not going to spread stuff that he's not, getting good information on. This is very sudden. I still would love to know the rationale behind the name change. I don't think it's necessary, but if there's some kind of legal issue with the lease at Bridgeview and being able to play in a different venue, and you can't do it under the Chicago Fire name, you're going to have to figure that out. Now, there is a Chicago City SC in Chicago. It's a youth club. Probably going to have to deal with some trademark issues there. But we'll see what happens, John.
Yeah, and this is picking up speed. And yesterday you had one set, and then you had what Rob is putting into the pile. And I know that the lease agreement with Bridgeview is out there somewhere, so I think it's a 34-page agreement. I may have to find it and have some required reading to figure out if there's anything attached to Chicago Fire and Bridgeview before we meet again tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm just maybe not. Maybe it's just a chance to start fresh. I just don't think the name's the issue. I don't think the name and the branding is the issue in this situation. Other clubs it could be. I don't think it is for Chicago Fire. So, I mean, is it the end of the world if they refresh the brand and change the name? I don't think it is. I think the bigger issue is the stadium and getting back into a central location. If this is something you do along the way, I'm not a huge fan of it at all, but I somewhat get it. I just think there's got to be a reason, I don't think it's because you're adding, you're going to move from Bridgeview. You're going to have to spend a lot of money there. You're going to have to spend a lot of money to change your brand if you're going to do it effectively. You're going to have to spend a whole bunch of crazy money to do that. If you're already spending a ton to get out of a lease, get into Soldier Field, whatever you got to do at Soldier Field to make it work for you, why are you going to add the extra cost of rebranding on top of it? Unless you have to. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the name does have bad connotation in the city. Maybe it just doesn't work anymore. Maybe it has been sullied because of the past history. Not in Chicago, so I'm not sure. I would love to hear more as this continues to develop, and we'll keep you posted as best we can. That's it for hour number 1. We'll be back right after this with hour number 2.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA is a national nonprofit working to transform youth and high school sports so that every child has a positive character-building youth sports experience. PCA provides live and online workshops to train double-goal coaches whose first goal is winning and whose second, more important goal is teaching life lessons through sports. PCA also has workshops for parents and high school student-athletes. For more information, please visit positivecoach.org.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinsky of Apolinsky & Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. This cat makes me make art. He's always motivating me to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. He's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Keyboard Cat, YouTube star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Start yours today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Soccer Down Here daily on SDH Networks, a division of OSG Sports. Find us at Soccer Down Here on Facebook and Twitter. The time is now the top of the hour. Peep, y'all.
Welcome back. Hour number 2. Soccer Down here, Thursday, April 4th. Okay, I had not seen this before, and John, I think you retweeted it before I did. Memphis 901 has their kickoff tradition, kind of like the Golden Spike. They smash a guitar over an amplifier.
Love that.
It's an acoustic guitar that they're smashing. There's no powder in it like Jeff Jarrett had in his acoustic guitars that he smashed over people's heads. And by the way, Jeff Jarrett has to do one of these because, I mean, come on, that's what he did. Thoughts on this pregame tradition?
Well, and since we went down the Jeff Jarrett rabbit hole very briefly, Tom Schreck did ask us for WrestleMania 35 predictions. And one of our alter ego shows may do something about that either today or tomorrow, depending on if anybody else gets arrested and has a kicking fight in the back of a cop car.
Yes, the wrestling down here that is usually in a super secret, like 12th hour at 2:35 on the third Thursday of the month, it might actually surface for public consumption on the OSG Sports Network. So just be ready for that.
Yes. Where we will analyze a 7-hour WrestleMania.
We're not analyzing that
less
much.
time than 7 hours.
Yeah, we're not analyzing that much.
I mean, it's kind of to me like what the Grizzlies have done with the homage to Mid-South.
Yes.
Where you have the mascot doing all of the spots from the suite level, jumping onto a table and, you know, breaking the hearts of some other jobber or something like that. Memphis, that's a part of the Memphis fabric with Deep South and Jerry Lawler, Jeff Jarrett, and Superstar Bill Dundee.
But smashing acoustic guitars, that's not necessarily a wrestling thing.
No, but but to me, I understand, you know, I get it. And if you want to smash a guitar, much like who was it that would the Who? You know, if the Who wanted to smash a guitar to celebrate a concert, that's what the Who did.
The Who are not from Memphis, sir.
I'm aware of that fact, sir.
I don't know of many Memphis bands that are known for smashing guitars.
No, but I think that it's probably a combination of an homage to the music and to the wrestling community, much like what the Grizzlies have done. So I get it completely. I just want powder. If you're going to smash a guitar, you need to have powder.
Yeah, you got to have the powder in it so you get the little poof. But I think the idea is fun. It's fun, but it's not a Memphis
and that's
thing.
What you need.
It's not a Memphis thing, though. It has nothing to do with Memphis other than people have played guitars in Memphis. You go tell B.B. King you're going to smash one of his guitars. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah, see how that goes.
You don't smash Lucille. You don't do that.
Exactly. And that's what Memphis is known for. So I think it's a fun thing, but it has nothing to do with Memphis. So we'll see how it goes. They will be doing this next against Atlanta United 2 on April 10th, and that's an ESPN News national broadcast. So for those of you who have not crossed the threshold to buy ESPN Plus, first, you're doing it wrong. Go ahead and go get ESPN Plus so you can listen to John and I do ATL UTD2 home games.
$4.99 a month.
$4.99 a month. But if you don't have it, that's okay. You can watch Atlanta United 2 next Wednesday when they go to Memphis.
And I think Mike Norvell, the head coach of the Memphis Tigers, is going to do your ceremonial smash.
Yes. We'll see how he wields a guitar. Maybe Jeff Jarrett can give him some tips between now and then.
Exactly.
So that was a fun thing that I saw pop up. But, yeah, I was baffled as to smashing guitars in Memphis. Some people could be very upset about that.
I took it specifically as a Jeff Jarrett wrestling homage, much like the Grizzlies, so I was down with it.
There's nothing wrestling about it. It's over an amp.
What, are you going to do it over somebody's back like Jeff Jarrett does?
Yes,
every
if
single
you want to
time?
do it wrestling style, yes.
Okay, so, all right. So, and I can guarantee you that there'll be some folks from the supporter section who'd be more than happy to have a guitar smashed over their back.
You put somebody in the T-shirt,
like
the color of the opposing team, and the guy comes up and smashes a guitar over him. If you're going to do it wrestling style, that's the way you would do it. This is not wrestling style. This is crossing multiple streams, and I'm a little like, okay, It's a bit of a reach, but all right.
Okay, well, over a steel amp or over someone's back, where you could end up with an injury issue and a lawsuit. I go with the inanimate object.
Jeff Jarrett did it for years. There were no injuries or lawsuits, sir. You gimmick the guitar.
Balsa wood guitars. I know.
Yes. You gimmick the guitar and you put the powder in it so it poofs up, and everybody's like, "Oh, yeah, that's what you do." So anyway, I'm giving Memphis a little bit of the side eye on it. It's fun, but all right. Anyway, let's talk about something else that I think we were both giving the side eye to. Some quotes from Marc de Grandpré, the general manager of the New York Red Bulls. He had an interview with Franco Panizzo of SBI Soccer. De Grandpré, when he took over for, I think, the second run as GM of the Red Bulls in 2014, he said he wanted to see sellouts be a regular occurrence. There was a plan for that to be the regular thing in 5 years. It is not. It's not at all. Average attendance dropped from 21,175 in 2017 to 18,583 last year in a Supporter Shield winning year. That's not good. The quotes are all over the place, and I guess that's what frustrated me the most, is that the conversation seemed to go from, well, no, it's not that bad, to, well, we haven't been around as long as everybody else in town, to, if we were to build the stadium today, we'd have built the stadium with a flexible capacity system. Okay, no soccer-specific stadium's been built with that, but all right. Then the last one is where it kind of gets me, because you
lay this out, because this is what just yikes.
Yeah, you go from all these different, and this is from the flow of the article, and I don't know if this was the flow of the conversation. You'd have to ask Franco Panizzo this, but would assume that it would follow this type of conversation. It starts with the quote, I think whenever you set goals for an organization, you've got to set them just out of reach so they can strive to get there. We didn't hit it. It is what it is. It's a reality, but we are where we want to be now and where we think we should be, and we recalibrate and move forward. That simple. Okay. I'm wondering about that. Then the whole thing about, we've been in this 25 years, the league's young. Other leagues have been around 100 years, 75 years, 25 years, averaging the numbers we average across the league, and here for attendance is nothing to be embarrassed about. Then the conversation about having a flexible capacity in the stadium. Not a fan of that one. So, okay, you've walked backwards from we're happy where we are to, well, we can't compare with the NBA, with the NHL, with NFL, to, well, we would build it where there's flexible capacity, where we could open up stuff if we needed to and not have it open if we didn't. You're seeing tarps now at Red Bull Arena. Not a good look. And they are working on redesigning areas of the stadium, I think, to cut down the capacity, and they want to make it, they want to rethink the environment. They want more open space concept areas. Okay. And then this is the last part that I'm honestly kind of baffled with. I'm just going to read the quote. You can lead the horse to water, but if they don't come to the game, they don't come to the game. That is something that we've worked on with our fan services team, and we've improved a lot. Our show rate was really good. We're excited about where we're going. I'm proud of our team and where we've been and what we've done compared to other leagues in the marketplace. If you look over the last 4 years, we've averaged 20,000, and we've been building our base attendance and our season ticket base every year. That I'm comfortable with. Obviously, do we always want to be further ahead? Absolutely. But we are where we are, and it's based on where we thought we would be. It's not. Nope. That's the issue I have with it, because 5 years ago, you said you'd be selling out the venue on a regular basis. You're not. It's not where you thought you would be. Building your base attendance each year, you declined by almost 3,000 in a year where you won the Supporter Shield. The line, you can lead the horse to water, but if they don't come to the game, they don't come to the game. I hate to hear that, because you're basically throwing your hands up and saying, we're doing all we can do. We can't make people come. Duh, we know that. But also,
it's a defeatist attitude.
There's some reason why you're not convincing people to come. You don't know what it is. That's a problem. That's a giant problem. They should know fans think the tickets are too expensive. Fans don't like the game day atmosphere. Fans want to see an MLS Cup championship. Fans want to see bigger name players. Fans want to see, more pregame activities. Fans want to see more entertainment. You should know. That's your job. You survey. You create focus groups. You ask. You ask former season ticket holders who are no longer coming to games. You ask current season ticket holders what they like, what they'd want to see more of. You listen to what people are saying. You don't say, you can lead the horse to water, but if they don't come to the game, they don't come to the game. You can't say that. You can't say that you're happy where you are. You can't. It's a bad look. And now, look, I completely understand why the conversation from Red Bulls fans is, it's okay. It's all good. It's all good. We're fine. It's all good. Nothing's wrong. We're cool. The attendance is okay. It's fine. I get it because that's the message from the club. I think they should be expecting more, and I think they should be working towards more and be more clear in what they're doing to work towards more. Creating these open areas to congregate to watch a game, I don't think that brings more fans in the building. Maybe it does. Maybe that's what people are telling them. I don't know. But I don't know. I just think it's a really bad message at this point, and especially when your attendance went from 21 and some change to 18 and some change, and now so far in 2 games this season, you're 15 and some change. That's a problem.
Your attendance is down 15%. From year to year. Now, going in this season from the limited sample size, I'm trying to do math over my head, you're down 17%. Your attendance is increasing in its inactivity. Empty seats are increasing at almost a 20% rate over the last 4 years. And you're cool with that? That, to me, adds to all of these things that we've said about Red Bulls in the past, about them being in Harrison, New Jersey, and they're complaining about media coverage and from out of the New York marketplace, and it's because you're so far detached and you don't do anything to improve your situation, and you wonder at the same time why you're not getting any media coverage because you're not meeting them at least halfway with how you want things to be promoted. And now you're out 15% leading into this season, almost 20% year to year, and you're comfortable with that. And the defeatist attitude that de Grand Pré has, you can lead the horse to water, but if they don't come to the game, they don't come to the game. You're giving yourself almost a self-fulfilling prophecy as to why folks aren't showing up. And you have a product that in the past has been competitive in the Eastern Conference and is winning you trophies and getting you into the playoffs consistently. And you have an academy system that is bringing in homegrown talent and continuing to do this in waves to continue your level of success, and you're cool with people not showing up. What in the wide world of sports are you having this thought process? I mean, communal areas for me is something that you do at Jerry World when you have 100,000 people watching a game inside and you still want people to show up. Having a communal area to me just means that when you only have 18,000 or 15,000 at a game, that you think that having people sitting there and standing at a table drinking a beer is going to bring them in when they're not there in the first place. And you're looking at floating your attendance. What are you're going to just pull tarps off, pull tarps back, pull tarps off, pull tarps back? That's a bad look. It's a bad look when you have tarps in the first place. But then when you want to try to figure out what your seating chart's going to be on a game-to-game basis, if folks are going to show up, you pull more tarps off when NYCFC comes to town, but then when Colorado comes to town, you put all those tarps back. I mean, MSG is going to have, if that ever comes to the fore, MSG is going to have a challenge sitting there trying to figure out, okay, how tight are our camera shots going to be to make sure that we show game and we don't show empty chairs, much like NBC Sports Boston has to, because there are tarps on the lower level, but they still have to show what's going on, and you can't get anything too tight, and you see a lot of empty seats in New England. For Red Bulls to be this cool with a degrading attention span towards your product, and you're not making the effort either in spoken word or in actual deed to get things done, that to me is a major issue. And you shouldn't have folks with those mindsets in those positions of authority to sit there and try to move your product forward when the league is what we refer to as 3.0. And you're trying to do things, and you're trying to be a seller's league, and you have the talent that you're growing yourself, and you yourself have been a part of this seller's league. In that aspect, you're right there with everybody else. But you're cool with 20% less folks showing up for your matches, and you're cool, I guess, because of inactivity, with how you're covered, despite the fact that you say that you're not happy with it. There's too much in this article that shakes my head and sits there. It's profoundly disappointing that you have a winning team in one of the conferences that has someone who can say stuff like this. Yeah, we're cool with that. If people don't come, they don't come. We're cool with that. What does that tell the fans that show up every week? Yeah, we're cool if everybody else doesn't show up. We'll take, you're a season ticket holder. We love you. But everybody else, if you don't show up, that's fine. It's your loss. Instead of being proactive and sitting there saying, we have something worth seeing, come and see it, here's why. Quotes like this, articles like this, interviews like this are doing just a massive disservice, not to Red Bulls, but to MLS and what they're trying to do. End of rant.
It's very strange. I don't know. I don't think it's a good thing anytime when you have a team that is competing for championships and winning regular season titles and celebrating 3 supporter shields in the last 5 years, losing fans over, a couple of years now, and it's just okay. Like that, it's not a good look. It's not a good look to have this stuff come out the way it is. Are there issues that make things difficult for the Red Bulls to draw? Yeah, absolutely. It's a crowded market. You've got teams in all sports all over the place. You've got a lot of entertainment options. Yeah, for sure. It's not easy. But I don't think it's ever a good look to just throw your hands up and say, well, hey, we're happy where we are. It's good. And you can't lead the horse to water, but if they don't come to the game, they don't come to the game.
That's a you problem.
Well, obviously, it's not a problem. That's
I
the
know.
thing.
Internally, apparently not.
Well, externally, publicly, it's not a problem. That's the bigger issue. Is that?
Yeah.
And if this is where you talk about that overall media perspective. If you are in the mainstream sports media of New York and New Jersey, and you see these types of quotes, why do you bother to cover this? Why do you fight for sending a camera out? Why do you fight for sending a reporter out if the GM says, well, yeah, our attendance has dropped, but we're okay with where we are, and we'll be all right. We're going to have more flexible seating options. That's what teams do when things are bad. Now, when you build a new venue with it, Mercedes-Benz Stadium has a lot of that. That was built from scratch, and it sure hasn't affected anything with Atlanta United's attendance. It's a thing where if I'm in the local media and I'm a decision maker and I read this, and then it comes up to a Saturday night where I have limited reporters, I have limited cameras, and I have stuff going on with hockey, with basketball, with whatever else is in town, college sports.
You're a 30-second VO at the bottom of the rundown at best.
You're not even that. Why would you even give it that? Because they're obviously happy with the level of coverage and support that they're getting. So why are you even going to give that? That's the thing, is I don't even think you get that anymore. That's a problem. It really, I get some of the things that are being said. Yes, you set big, audacious goals because you're trying to push yourself to get there. you phrase them a little differently. You set vision statements as opposed to goals, which are very different. But you don't make these types of public comments just because I think they can really come back to hurt you. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with the Red Bulls. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk U.S. women's national team. We have a couple questions about tonight's match with Australia. We'll get into those right after this.
Today's show is presented by Apelinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service Ad Council and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here. April 4th. U.S. women's national team in action tonight, 9 o'clock Eastern time from Denver against Australia. Australia is ranked number 6 in the world. The U.S. still holds the number 1 ranking right now. 1-1-1 against Australia since the 2015 World Cup. A couple news items before we get into the team and the match tonight. The big news yesterday was Luna Bar, which I believe is a subsidiary of Cliff Bar. They're donating $718,750 to the U.S. women's national team, so their bonuses are equal to the U.S. men's national team. Now, this is a very specific element of the argument about equal pay. U.S. Soccer pays members of the Women's World Cup a roster bonus that is $31,250 per player, less than it pays members of the men's team. That's stupid. That's just stupid. And that's, I know this whole conversation gets people really bent out of shape in both ways, and it's kind of weird. We talked about it on a Women's Soccer Weekly podcast with Jessica and Kelly from Queens of the South and Unrelegated. There's certain elements of the contracts with the men's national team and the women's national team that there's just no argument that they should be equal. Like, there are some that are more complicated, for sure, because the women who are part of the NWSL get a salary paid by U.S. Soccer for their NWSL play. You don't have that on the men's side. That's something to factor in. You have different bonuses from FIFA that then get passed down to players. That has to be factored in. But stuff like this, when you really look at all the revenues, and I know the numbers were pulled out in a lot of the conversation around the lawsuit when it was filed about 2015 women compared to men's revenues and ratings and all that. You're talking about a World Cup year against a non-World Cup year for the men. That's not an equal comparison. You have to do it on 4-year cycles. And lately it's been pretty similar. It hasn't been all that different. So there's no justification for the women for a roster bonus to be paid $31,000 per player less. There's no justification for that. So Luna Bar is making a donation to the Players Association with the stipulation that the players, the 23 members of the 2019 Women's World Cup roster, will be paid $31,250 to make up that difference. So full credit to Luna Bar, pointing out something very specifically that is just, I'm sorry, you can argue a lot of different things about it, but I just don't see any justification for why there's a difference in the roster bonus. And I know Kelly and I's heads were exploding as we were reading through some of the differences and, win bonuses being dramatically different. Just all kinds of crazy stuff. Like, there's certain things that need to be factored in because there are differences between the two in what they do and how they're paid. But there's certain baseline stuff that has to be the same. That might be one of the lawyers calling you right now with an update.
Yeah, really?
So that was done, and that was a lot of big news. And this is what kind of sucks about this whole situation, is that was the big news the day before a very important match. You're playing Australia. You have 2 more games before you're into the nitty-gritty of World Cup prep, where you have your final roster, and you're headed to France. You didn't come out of the She Believes Cup in a really strong place. You didn't lose in that tournament. You didn't win the tournament. You only won 1 match in the tournament. You drew twice. You drew twice by giving up goals late. It doesn't look like you're settled. Brianna Scurry was very clear recently at a panel discussion saying that she's concerned about goalkeeper. Probably for the first time ever in women's national team history, there's a concern about goalkeeper right now. There's a big concern about the midfield. And let's get into a question from Caleb Cook about that. I'm over Jill Ellis trying Mallory Pugh in central midfield. She's a winger, not a central midfielder. Ask her passing chart. I completely agree. I will give one slight caveat in that in the She Believes Cup, Jill Ellis did not have Lindsey Horan injured. She's in the roster now. That should help. But I'm completely with you. The Mallory Pugh central midfield experiment did not work. You could see it wasn't working. You got to get out of that. Caleb suggests if you want her on the field, bring Tobin Heath or Megan Rapinoe inside, as they have the ability to play in the middle, and let Pugh do what she does best, run at defenders. I agree. I would have rather seen Rapinoe inside. I like Tobin outside running at defenders too. I think Tobin Heath is as good of a 1v1 player as we've ever had in this country, male or female, period. I think she's as technical as anybody we've ever seen. I want her in positions to be able to break defenders down. So I'd bring Rapinoe in there. I think Megan's savviness can handle that conversion a lot better than Mallory Pugh or Tobin Heath could. But we're going to see Lindsey Horan in there going forward, I hope. I hope she's ready to give you the match tonight. At the World Cup, I think that's who you're going to have. But when you see that type of reaction to an injury, John, and you're playing a player in Pugh inside, I just get worried if, okay, you have injuries at the World Cup. What are you going to do? Like, how are you going to handle this stuff?
I don't, I'm trying to interpret this as Jill Ellis trying something because she has an idea, or she's doing something because she doesn't have an idea and is just trying to put, a cork in the bottle so the rest of it doesn't spill out when you put it on the countertop. For me, I have concerns about the overall age of the average starting 11. I have issues about depth. I have issues.
What are your issues about age? Let's start there.
Okay. Well, for me, it's the reliance on the players who have been there for so long. And then, of course, as you get older, I wonder about fitness. I wonder about injury. I wonder about replacements. I wonder about all these things that are associated with us as you get older, just in general.
Who are you specifically worried about in that regard? I don't think that's quite as big of an issue.
No? Okay.
No, I mean, who are you concerned about?
I mean, I'm concerned about someone like Megan Rapinoe.
I don't think she's showing you anything to be concerned about, though. I think she's playing really well. that's one reason I could see her inside, though, to be honest, is that would put her in a position where she is relying a little more on her vision, a little more on her skill set, as opposed to her, physical fitness playing out wide. I think you could get something out of that. I think that's something to consider. But she's been effective. I don't think she's been ineffective. You're not playing Carly Lloyd huge minutes now. She's
if
playing
Carly
more
Lloyd
of a
is your
supporting
super
role.
sub,
Fine.
the super sub Carly Lloyd thing I'm fine with.
Beyond that, you're not really looking at any big-time veterans. Sauerbrunn has 153 caps. Allie Krieger's back in the team after a couple years away, and I feel like she probably should have been back in the team before now. She has 98 caps, but I don't think it's the age as much. I hear you on Rapinoe, but I think she's answered those questions pretty well.
And for those who haven't read the Jonathan Tannenwald pieces, I would highly suggest that be your daily mandatory reading. And I think that Brianna Scurry has a great point. And you adding in there that, let's go back and let's think as far back as humanly possible. You go back to the 99s and goalkeeping hasn't been a thought. You were locked in, you had folks, you had your starters, everything was in place. And that was one of the things that you sat there and you were like, okay, we're locked in, don't need to worry about it, you go. Hope Solo, with all of her baggage and extracurriculars, you didn't worry about her between the sticks. You worried about her in mixed zones and other things, but you didn't worry about her between the sticks. I think that this is that first time where if you haven't been looking at keeper, you need to look at keeper. I think you really do.
I don't know who the true starter is.
Who's your starter?
Right now. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Your roster right now, it's Adriana Frunch from Portland Thorns. She had her first cap in the She Believes Cup. It's Ashlyn Harris from the Orlando Pride. It's Alyssa Nair from the Chicago Red Stars. I don't know. I don't know who the starter is right now, and that's a problem in April when the tournament starts in June. And that goes back to your comment about Jill Ellis trying stuff. You should be past that at this point.
Yeah.
I don't think now's the time to be trying stuff.
No. And, you look at it's just when you have a team and the rest of the world is catching up with you and you're trying stuff, that to me is a big red flag. You're trying stuff. You should have stuff locked in and you should be ready to go instead of being, a team that didn't win She Believes and you got action against Belgium 3 days from now at Bank of California after the action in suburban Denver tonight. It's just when you're trying things, no, you need to be locked in by now instead of having the 24 person roster trying to figure things out, getting to these two matches so you can get to World Cup. I need a plan, and I don't see one.
I keep zeroing in on the midfield because Lindsey Horan was your NWSL MVP last season. You didn't have her at She Believes, totally get it, but that'll help. But then the answers when you didn't have her is let's play Pugh and Rose Lavelle, who is a possibility as a 10, as holding midfielders. It doesn't work. So, you move Julie Ertz to the back line as well. Like, I don't know what the midfield's supposed to look like right now. And Samantha Mewis, when she came in, she did well. McCall Zerboni is that just grinder that I think you need. If you're going to play, you have to decide where Julie Ertz is going to play. Is she going to be a center back or is she going to be a defensive midfielder? You have to know now. Like that should not be in flux because if wherever she's going to be, you have to adjust the rest of the midfield. Is Horan a 10 or is she an 8 or does she sit with a pair holding midfield behind a 10? I think Lindsey Horan's a player who can do all of the above, but she needs direction. You need to know where she's going to be. Is she going to be paired with Ertz behind Rose Lavelle? Is Horan going to be the 10, and you're going to pair Ertz with Samantha Mewis or McCall Zerboni? Are you going to play Mewis and Zerboni, the North Carolina Courage teammates, together and sit somebody? We don't know. Allie Long, where does she factor in? No idea. And if the middle of your team is not defined right now, you have a problem.
Mm-hmm.
The spine is what will win a World Cup for you.
I was going to ask about that.
I don't know what the center back pair is because I don't know where Julie Ertz is playing. I don't know what the midfield is. We know Alex Morgan is your number 9. And Morgan has worked very hard to add new elements to her game. She's 1 goal away from 100. Hopefully she gets it. Hopefully she gets it tonight, so that's kind of off of her back. But Alex Morgan is your number 9, no questions asked. Who do you play around her? Who's the 10 behind her? Who are the 2 wingers? Or do you play 2 forwards? What does it look like? Do you play a forward as the number 10 where they're basically playing as a second forward? You're asking a little bit more of your 8. There's so many different things you can do here, but I just don't know what the plan is. Right. Jill Ellis has not had a consistent philosophy really ever in her time. And I thought Kim McCauley at SB Nation really broke it down well. You go back to the last World Cup, it did not start well. And this is a bullet point of let's run down the things that had to happen for the U.S. women's national team to win the last World Cup. Jill Ellis had to decide that rookie Morgan Bryan, rather than someone else, was the best person to fill in for the suspended Lauren Holiday. By the way, where is Morgan Bryan these days? She's not getting called up. Now, she had some injuries, but she's not getting called up anymore. And she was critical in winning the last World Cup. Okay? So, second bullet point about 2015. Bryan, who to that point had received her other U.S. women's national team starts as a wide player or attacking midfielder, had to perform at an expert level as a defensive midfielder. And then you had one of the top players in the world injured for the semifinal. You had a world-class defender have one of her worst games ever in the final against you. Yeah. It's...
Okay.
You haven't answered any questions even dating back to then. Nothing's really changed. You're still flailing, and you're hoping that things luckily fall into place at a World Cup.
Yeah. Jill Ellis was asked leading into these April friendlies about impact on the roster selection. Quote, right now, everything is about preparing for June. Recognizing that these are our last friendlies before the send-off series and that we're playing 2 quality teams provides a positive sense of urgency to get the most out of these 2 matches. First off, preparing for June. Agreed. Don't you think you should have things almost prepared for June by now instead of preparing for June? Just a thought.
You would think. One correction, too. Sorry. Jane Campbell was added to the roster as well. Franch suffered a minor knee injury. She did come into camp. I've not seen an update on if she was if she stayed in, but Jane Campbell was added, Georgia native, to the roster. She plays with the Houston Dash. So you have 4 goalkeepers in, and we still don't know who the starter is.
Our time together will be important to keep forging team chemistry and build on the connectivity on the pitch so we can bring out the best from each other in our team play. Honestly, I go back to that first sentence. This is where you should be tying everything up or have it tied up so you can sit there and say, okay, here's what I want my 11 to be, here's what I want my 18 to be, instead of sitting there and kicking the tires on ideas when you're going after a top 6 team in Australia and a team in Belgium who was a goal away from qualifying for the World Cup. You should have things locked down by now. And I mean, for me, when you were going over the midfield, I mean, my eyes did drift to McCall Zerboni and a lot of the North Carolina Courage influence. But if someone like me, who is by admission a casual viewer of the women's national team, I will watch when you're getting closer to international competitions and in international competitions, and I'll watch friendlies and things like that. And I'm still learning about them going forward. But when you have a major international competition, let's see, it is April 4th. So June is 8 weeks away. You're 2 months out, and you're still working on building things. You should have things built by now. You should have your questions answered. You should have everything figured out formationally, personnel. Okay, if A doesn't happen, or if something happens to individual A, I know that individual B can step in and do this and continue to go forward when it comes to our philosophy and what we want to do. So we, as the top-ranked team in the world, can win the Women's World Cup. I don't think you're the favorite right now. And when you have more questions and you're still building toward the World Cup when you should be built, I get issues.
Yeah. It's not where you need to be. Preview over at Stars and Stripes FC projects this lineup, and kind of guessing like the rest of us. Nair in goal, back line of Crystal Dunn, Tierna Davidson, Abby Dahlkemper, Allie Krieger getting the start. I mean, why bring her in if you're not going to play her? I think you need to see if she's still at this level. I think she is. You do worry a little bit about legs because, and we'll explain that in just a second as we get through the rest of the team. Julie Ertz as the 6'2". It's listed here as 2 8s. Lindsay Horan's the one who can flip the field either way. Rose Lavelle alongside of her. Megan Rapinoe wide on the left. Tobin Heath wide on the right. Alex Morgan up top. The reason why Krieger and Dunn are really important here is Rapinoe and Heath are going to be pretty fluid and cutting inside. They're going to play much more like 3 up top as opposed to 2 wingers who are going to drop in and defend a lot. It's not Rapinoe and Heath's game. So Dunn, that's one reason why Crystal Dunn has moved to a left-back role with the national team. Her speed, she's able to get forward and pick the right times to do that, and she's dangerous, but she can get back and she can recover. Can Krieger do that at her age? That's going to be a big question tonight, especially against an Australia team that's very good out wide. And I go back to the game against France at the beginning of the year, the friendly in France, where they just destroyed the U.S. out wide. If you're going to play this type of shape, you're going to have to be incredibly strong in the back out wide. Or you're going to need to play this a little more like that old 3-4-3 because Julie Ertz can drop in and play as a center back. Then you have Dunn and Krieger as wing backs, which takes a little bit of the pressure off of them. Horan and Lavelle are your 2 central midfielders. Rapinoe, Heath, Morgan are your 3 up top. It can play a little more like that because of the versatility of Ertz, and it's probably going to have to at times just because you're susceptible out wide in this type of shape, and you're going to be asking a lot of Dunn and Krieger if that's your starters tonight. You're going to be asking a lot of Ertz. Horan and Lavelle are going to have to do a lot of defensive work as well because that's not where Rapinoe and Heath thrive. So this is where, I keep coming back to a player like McCall Zerboni who, yes, she has 8 caps. Yes, she had an awful injury last year. She's that type of selfless grinder that you don't have much of in this team. Not to say you have a bunch of selfish players, but just you need somebody who, as Diego Maradona put it back in the day, you need, or in soccer, you have piano players and you have piano carriers. Not everybody can play the piano. Somebody's got to carry the thing. McCall Zerboni would carry it on her back uphill for 10 miles. That's the way
in
she
the snow,
plays.
Barefoot in the snow both ways.
Yeah, we get it. She would do all of that, even after she broke her elbow. You don't have much of that in this group. Sometimes you have to sacrifice a talented player to make the overall group better, and you might have to do that with this. And we'll see if Jill Ellis hits on that and decides on that. It's going to be interesting, but we'll be talking about it tomorrow. Tonight, USA, Australia, women's friendly, 9 o'clock on FS1 as the team is only a couple of months away from headed to France for the Women's World Cup. I think the most open Women's World Cup we've ever seen. I'm really looking forward to it. Let's take a break here. We'll get into more Thursday thoughts right after this.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA is a national nonprofit working to transform youth and high school sports so that every child has a positive character-building youth sports experience. PCA provides live and online workshops to train double-goal coaches whose first goal is winning and whose second, more important goal is teaching life lessons through sports. PCA also has workshops for parents and high school student athletes. For more information, please visit positivecoach.org.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinski of Apolinski & Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. This cat makes me make art. He's always motivating me to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. He's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Keyboard Cat, YouTube star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Start yours today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here. April 4th, Thursday. Thoughts. We've had lots of thoughts on the U.S. women's national team, on the Red Bulls, on Felipe's weekend. Looks like he's going to have a good one. We'll see if Atletico Madrid makes the Spanish league interesting in the final couple of months. All kinds of thoughts about Tormenta and USL League One as well. If you guys have Thursday thoughts, share them with us on Twitter at Soccer Down Here. Caleb Cook has a thought about the USWNT goalkeeper situation. He'd rather see Ashlyn Harris. I would too. I'm with Caleb on this. Nair always looks terrified, doesn't seem to make the stops that Harris does. I think Harris is the better shot stopper. I'm with you. And I think your reasoning is completely valid here, Caleb. So sure, Nair is better with the ball and has a better leg, but as the U.S., you're playing higher, have more possession. You're not playing to your keeper that much. I'm with you. I've always felt like Harris was the best of the options. It just doesn't seem like it's locked down.
Yeah.
And that's one of those spots that, to me, like, you don't want to have a competition at this point.
Nope. No, you don't. And if you're worried, I mean, there was the discussion that we were having about Sporting KC in the CONCACAF Champions League. You know what you've got back there. You know that Tim Melia is going to be your starter. You know Tim Melia can stand on his head. You know that he's going to be there for you. And he's going to stop a lot more shots than he's going to let in. When you're talking the women's national team, I don't have that same reference point. I don't have that same level of confidence. I don't have the same kind of lockdown thought as to, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. I know what my order is. I don't know. And when I'm saying I don't know about goalkeeper heading into a World Cup, that to me is, I don't know how many red flags I need to wave from my patio, but that's a big red flag. That's like in Les Mis toward the end of the Revolution fight scene, you know, when you're waving red flags. That's how many red flags you need.
Jarrett chimes in, never worried about Hope Solo until the last Olympics 2 years plus ago. Yeah. Still not sure of who the go-to is. Such an un-American problem historically. And that's what Brian Escurry told Jonathan Tannenwald. It's just, you've never had this concern. It was Brian Escurry, and then it was Hope Solo, and that was, 20-plus years between the two of them that you knew you had, if not the best goalkeeper in the world, one of the best three between the sticks. And right now, you don't really have that, and that's not typical. Whoever you decide upon right now, I think you have to give them confidence. You have to play them, stick with them, and give them that confidence. And hopefully that decision is made, and we get a better sense of it in these two matches. The match tonight against Australia is the toughest of the two. The match Sunday night against Belgium is not as difficult. So this is really your last time that you're going to learn a lot against a top opponent. You know, after this is what your schedule looks like between now and the World Cup. Australia tonight, Belgium Sunday. Then you play South Africa on May 12th. You play New Zealand on May 16th. You play Mexico on May 26th. None of those are going to be tests. Now, New Zealand will be so-so. But then, luckily, your World Cup schedule does allow you to build a bit. You get Thailand in the opener on June 11. You get Chile in the second match on June 16th. Then you get Sweden June 20th in the match that will decide who wins the group. And then you're into knockouts. So this is your last really big test before Game 3 of the group stage against Sweden. You need to get answers tonight.
Uh-huh.
You're up against the wall on getting some answers, and this is it. So,
yeah.
We'll see.
When you do that on the air, when I do that, it's one thing. But when you do that on the air, that to me is, major question in search of answer, and really you've already run out of time to come up with it.
Hopefully it's known, and we just haven't seen it yet. Hopefully the Lindsey Horan return, clarifies some things in the midfield. Hopefully we feel better about the team coming out of tonight. I get it, and I've talked to a lot of people, and I understand, the U.S. has historically been the best or one of the best, and they are one of the best. But I don't think they're the clear-cut favorite by any stretch in this World Cup. I feel like France is. I think they're as much of a favorite as you're going to have. I think it's France. They're hosting it, and I think they're a more dynamic squad right now.
Yeah.
And I think the U.S. is going to get tested by a lot of other countries as well. This is going to be a big moment for women's soccer in the United States. And I hope that it can be. And something that we're going to try to do a lot of, we're going to try to talk a lot about the team and the play on the field, because I think at times that doesn't get talked about enough. We're going to try to get into the tactics. We're going to try to get into why certain players are playing in certain roles, what you're looking for out of it, when there's mistakes, who's making them, what's going on, because too often that gets brushed to the side, and that's what's going to decide how this team does this summer. It's going to come down to that. So they're going to have to be on point, because I don't think you can win this tournament playing at your 75% best, your 80% best. I think for the U.S. to win this tournament, they're going to have to be at their 100% best, tactically, philosophically, performance-wise. And I don't know if we've seen that in a while. So we'll see how it goes. A couple other news and notes as we get closer to wrapping up. A lot of stadium stuff popping up in the last 24 hours. Miami, they're cleared now to demolish what's left of Lockhart Stadium and build. I still want to know if it's going to be ready for next year.
Yeah.
I'm a little curious about that. I mean, well, that's stupid. No, that's idiotic. Inter Milan, and Nick, go get your Italian people under control, Alifi, because Inter Milan is trying to sue about, and now it's Internazionale, is trying to sue Internacional de Miami.
I mean, come on, people.
Being called Inter, I guess?
Yeah, whatever.
Stupid.
You don't own Inter.
Trifling, stupid, frivolous, stupid. I don't think that lawsuit's going anywhere. It's idiotic. So what's more important is actually like clearing the brush that is the field at Lockhart Stadium and preparing a surface to play on and building. And you can do temporary, you can do modular, you can do some things to have a place ready to play. But you are running short on time. So Inter Miami, they can start work at the Lockhart Stadium compound and start their build out. That's good news. Sacramento.
Weed whackers.
Oh, they're going to need more than that. Sacramento, they released their new stadium renderings for their MLS venue. Up to 25,000 seat capacity, Not bad. Would have liked 30. It's shovel ready. They can build as soon as they get the club. That's pretty cool. And the renderings look great. So Sacramento is fighting with St. Louis to get number 28. I think both are getting in. I just don't know which one gets in first. Cleveland was an interesting one that popped up. Now, this is for USL Championship, but a site was potentially chosen for a stadium that would house a USL Championship team. It's Greg and Shaw Abrams. They would be the owners. They have a set of fitness facilities in the Cleveland area. Uses the name Force, and they have acquired the rights to the Cleveland Force name. Why is that important? They were a pretty legendary major indoor soccer league club in the late 70s through the late 80s. About 10, 11 years, they were a big deal. At one point, and I need to go back and get the specifics on it, at one point it was actually really close for Cleveland to come into Major League Soccer under the Force name. And I believe the owner who had owned the Force and was ready to invest and join MLS passed away, and everything fell through at that point. You didn't have anybody to drive it. But now it looks like Cleveland could be a USL Championship city. Another big market. Another market that doesn't have MLS. That would make a lot of sense. And the stadium site they're talking about was one that, going back in the day, was talked about for Art Modell and the Browns before Modell moved to Cleveland or moved to Baltimore, and then was talked about after that for a site for a stadium, and they decided to build it on the same area where the old Cleveland Municipal Stadium was. So this is a place that's been talked about for a while. Pretty well regarded as a good site. It'd be a 7,000-seat stadium is what they're talking about right now. Now, I don't know what the expansion possibilities would be, but Cleveland in the USL Championship, yes. Good thing. Good move. Dig it.
Kai Hoskevy, Ali Kazamani, when they played at the Richfield Coliseum. Yeah, and they were in double digits, anywhere from 13 to 14,000 pretty much in the last 5 years when they were the Force before they turned into the Crunch in the late 80s. But, yeah, they had the whole thing with Darth Vader and the Star Wars music, and George Lucas got mad and sued him, and then they worked it out. But, yeah, the Force were actually making money.
Now, that's an intro when you come out that can work and can actually make some sense because you've done this before and it has some history. There you go. Nick Alifi thinks I'm crazy for being upset about the guitar smashing. It's all good. People have called me worse.
Darth Vader, Star Wars music, the whole thing, and then the Wallstein family apparently worked it out with George Lucas, and then a year later, the whole Open came back. So, Richfield Coliseum in its heyday. I remember watching the MISL on USA, so I remember what the Cleveland Force were all about.
Couple rumors as well. Antonio Valencia has been mentioned as a possibility for an MLS move this summer. No club specifically attached as of yet. Markel Susaeta is a right winger from Athletic Bilbao. He's been there his whole career. He's been linked to an MLS move if his contract isn't renewed. I think he has over 400 career appearances with Bilbao, 31 years old, came up through their academy. You're going to get lots of those early 30s guys who are like, yeah, I'd love to go to MLS. Yeah, and some of them might end up here, and some of them might be good fits. But that's going to happen more and more. Now, a player going the other way, player who almost went the other way in the winter transfer window, Luciano Acosta, according to Pablo Maurer at The Athletic, as many as 5 clubs have expressed an interest in acquiring Acosta. 2 clubs, at least 2 from Ligue 1 in France, a mid-table Premier League side, and a Saudi club. That's in addition to interest from Fenerbahce, which The Athletic has confirmed. Now, where you're at with Acosta, he's out of contract at the end of the year. He can sign a pre-contract in the summer window and leave at the end of the season on a free. DC can't let that happen. But they got to re-sign the guy. DC is ready to offer a 4-year deal worth $2 to $2.5 million per year. Maurer speculates that it's not going to be money that would be the difference on Acosta. The couple caveats he had to that is if the Saudi club comes in with just stupid money, which is possible, he might go there. Otherwise, if it's a club from Europe where Acosta could play, and the money's the same, I think he's going to go. I think DC would have to offer stupid money, and I don't know if they're comfortable doing that.
No.
But DC has no leverage here because the only leverage you have is if Acosta says, yep, I'm going to wherever in Liga and I'm signing the pre-contract now. DC might be able to get a pittance of a transfer fee to let him go in the summer as opposed to walking at the end of the year for nothing. That's it. That's where you're at. DC has got to handle their contracts better.
Yes.
That's a huge issue in Major League Soccer. You can't let guys walk on freeze anymore. You have to do business. You have to play the game the right way when it comes to these deals, and DC's up against it with Luciano Acosta. They went through the same thing with Bill Hamid. He walked on a free. Then they had to pay to bring him back on loan when it didn't work out. Kind of weird and crazy, but that's where you're at right now. Got to get these deals done and manage the time frames a lot better. Anything on the Twitters we need to address before we wrap up today?
Other than people
the garlic bread
arguing with
warlord
you
still
about,
yelling at me?
Yes. I'm sure that it wouldn't surprise me if a new hot drop came out on that particular topic. But, yeah, I think we are officially caught up other than Nick still yelling at you.
Yeah. I just want a backstory. That's where I'm at. Okay, I can buy it. I need a backstory. Sell me on why this is happening, and there could be one. There could be a big video to go with it. I know the Memphis music scene. It's pretty diverse. But I know a lot of times because it's come up every time you've had a band that smashes their equipment at the end of a show. Nirvana, that was something that they did on a regular basis, and some bands
90s night
can't. Yeah. Okay, you're throwing like 20 things at once. Stop. You have some bands who get mad about bands smashing their equipment. Some bands are okay with it. So that's why I'm kind of like, yeah, it's a music scene, but some people might not like seeing guitars smashed. So maybe there's more to it. I want a backstory. Just sell me on it. Create some crazy story about somebody saying something bad about soccer's not going to work in Memphis, and then a guy came up and smashed a guitar over their head. Cool, that's enough. Just give me something.
Yes.
That'll be fun.
There you go.
It'll be fun. And let Jeff Jarrett be part of it because he needs to be.
Oh,
please.
He might
feel left out.
Let that happen.
All right. So that's it for the day. We're going to be back tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock. We'll get you ready for a weekend of Major League Soccer and USL Championship and USL League One. We'll break down the U.S. women against Australia tonight, and we'll get into probably some Friday flashback stuff since it's a day away from 90s night with Atlanta United 2 on Saturday. Get your tickets. I think the first 500 people get a headband, which is kind of cool.
An 80s thing, though.
80s, 90s, it blurs together at times. There were plenty of headbands in the 90s.
Thanks for reminding me.
Plenty of headbands in the 90s. Slap bracelets and all the such. So
see, now that you get a Stripes slap bracelet, or a what was the watch that everybody had? The really cheap, the Swatch. You get like a Stripes Swatch or something.
That's a pretty big giveaway. And the slap bracelet, I don't know if I'm giving any Atlanta United fans right now weapons that are potential weapons that are called slapping anything.
It'd be like seat cushion night at the Braves.
Yeah, it'd be like bat night or something. It'd be out of hand. So no slap bracelets right now, headbands. And I might have to try to snag a headband and talk to some people and try to get one. So that's it for today. Thanks for listening. We appreciate it. We'll be back tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock. Mucha plata, y'all.
Mucha Luna Bar, y'all.